Godzilla, Kong, the New Empire is here, and wow. It's performing tremendously well, guaranteeing that the Monsterverse will survive to see another day so that we can see another city crumble. But while we're still reveling in all of Wingard's glory, we need to discuss some lesser-known lore introduced in the film and its novelization, and amend our Monsterverse timeline just a bit so that it's all up to date. How old is Shimo? What exactly happened in the war between Godzilla and the Great Apes? What really happened with Ghidorah? When does the movie take place? Does this help place Godzilla vs. Kong on the timeline? And, most importantly, how does the Godzilla Kong novelization by Greg Keyes hint towards what could potentially come next? Well, I've seen the film twice and have now also had the opportunity to listen to the novelization twice, so I'm really excited to tell you all that I've learned. Welcome to Geek Critique. My name is Dakota, everyone's third favorite fictional chronologist, and today I'll be your forensic chronologist as we break down where GxK fits into the wider Monsterverse timeline. If you enjoy this content, please be sure to like and subscribe for more. In our last video, a massive hour-long Monsterverse timeline, we hosted our first giveaway for the card game Continuity. Because that video is still getting really solid views, we want to extend the giveaway a bit further, so we won't announce a winner just yet in this video. If you'd like a shot to win, go watch that video, which I'll link in the description, and follow the instructions there. More info on Continuity and how to play the game will be explored later in this video. So, let's dive in. The film actually discusses something I didn't expect that they'd cover, that being the Great War between Godzilla and the Great Apes. In Eileen Andrews' translation of the Iwi script, she explains that a powerful and ruthless ape desperate to conquer the surface world corrupted his tribe and led them into war against the one they called the monster who ate a star. The war with the apes nearly destroyed Godzilla, but after a great battle, he imprisoned the apes in a fiery realm of Hollow Earth. For many of you, this was likely the first time you heard about this ancient war, unless you watched my timeline video that discussed it before watching the movie, or read about it in the Godzilla vs. Kong novelization. That war with Godzilla is what initially forced Kong's ancestors and the Iwi to travel up to Skull Island. What we didn't know previously was that the war had been instigated by the Skar King, that it nearly led to Godzilla's demise, and that Skar King's forces were imprisoned in the fiery depths of Hollow Earth because of it. We'll clarify our visual timeline to better fit this new info. One thing that's not super clear from the film itself is that it wasn't just Godzilla fighting the Great Apes, but an army of titans led by Godzilla. The first chapter of the novelization claims the evidence was clear that at one point there had been a full-on war between Godzilla, the titans he controlled, and the Great Apes. What we don't know is how the ancient titan Shimo was involved, or what side of the battle she was on, if at all, but we know she was captured by Skar King after the war was presumably over. Eileen says, trapped within their subterranean prison for millennia, the Skar King harnessed a terrible power, the ancient titan Shimo. We do know, however, that at some point Godzilla did face off against Shimo, thanks to this cave art found in the prequel tie-in comic Godzilla, Kong, the Hunted, but again, when that happened is a bit murky. The novelization does give us a far better look at Shimo's ancient history. The book opens with a prologue dated to 2016, wherein Ishiro Serizawa, Vivian Graham, Emma Russell, and Eileen Andrews all go out on a field expedition to Greenland to speak to a Dr. Martens about a discovery she had made there. She found that the base layer of the last ice age showed signs of instantaneous freezing, and Monarch were visiting because they had found evidence in Antarctica of the very same phenomenon. When exactly this base layer of freezing occurred is particularly confusing, as periods ranging from 100,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago, 3,000,000 years ago are all thrown about in quick succession within the same conversation. Eileen Andrews does claim that Shimo's power covered the Earth in the last ice age. That's confirmed. It's also suggested that Shimo's initial bursts of power were what started or what triggered each respective ice age dating back almost 3,000,000 years. She didn't necessarily cover the Earth in ice by herself, but just like a single matchstick could spark a wildfire, her initial flash freezing caused the world's temperatures to plummet into each ice age. Most likely, Shimo is far older than that though. To quote a line from Eileen in the novelization, the Iwi script called her the original Titan, but I was translating in a hurry. It could also mean ultimate Titan or quintessential Titan. Another thing the book explains is that it was Shimo herself who froze Ghidorah all those years ago. This was a far more recent event than even the most recent Ice Age. If you guys watched my timeline, you'll know I totally called this when I mentioned we'll likely find out soon how Ghidorah was so quickly frozen in ice. It makes the most sense. No normal flash freezing event could stop a monster of that size. And if you look at the frozen Ghidorah, notice that it froze mid-battle. Impressive stuff. This doesn't retcon anything we know of Godzilla's ancient beef with the three-headed dragon, it's simply an extra layer of knowledge to add onto the canon. Another fascinating topic is that of Project Powerhouse, the proposed bill to augment Titans to make them stronger. The novelization claims that the project was built around the blueprints of Apex Cybernetics' Mechagodzilla project, but is something wholly unique, and obviously doesn't require the skull of Ghidorah to interface with it. On this topic, the new Hollow Earth aerial vehicles, or HEAVs, aren't Apex tech either, but based on their blueprints. Whether Apex is still around after the events of Godzilla vs. Kong is unclear, but it doesn't seem like they're a big player at all these days. So, when does the movie occur? I mentioned in my big timeline video that Godzilla, Kong, the New Empire would either occur in 2027 or 2029, as per the rumor by KDM that it occurred 5 years after Godzilla vs. Kong, which I explained in detail could have occurred in either 2022 or 2024. More on that later. But it did turn out that this film, GxK, can be solidly placed in 2027. Chapter 1 of the novelization firmly declares it to be set in 2027, and early in the film there's a brief shot of a news station with the words Titan Watch 2027 scrolling across the bottom of the screen. We also know what time of year it's occurring, as Eileen Andrews' phone reads Wednesday, August 30th. August 30th doesn't land on a Wednesday in 2027, so this is likely just an artifact from when the scene was filmed, but it's a solid enough date to wrap our timeline around. But if this does occur 5 years after Godzilla vs. Kong, as per the KDM rumor, would that place Godzilla vs. Kong in 2022? Does that line up with all the facts? Sadly, it does not. Let me explain. I'm not going to reiterate why Godzilla vs. Kong could just as easily work in 2022 as it does in 2024. You'll just have to watch my video for that, but I go in depth on that topic. The novelization for GxK, as opposed to the GvK novelization, is much more conservative, with revealing the time elapsed between the two most recent films. But whenever it refers to the events of the prior film, it always speaks of them as a few years ago, which isn't super helpful. There is a pretty big clue, however. The book claims that the Iwi girl, Gia, is 13. In the prior novelization for Godzilla vs. Kong, it claims she was about 10. That appears to imply only 3 years have passed between films, not 5, which works better with the few years bracket the novel uses. And there's actually in-film proof too, in Bernie's notes, that the events of the film occurred in 2024, not 2022. That's enough proof for me. Godzilla vs. Kong occurs in fall 2024, and Godzilla, Kong, the New Empire occurs in late August, early September 2027, 3 years later. I'll update my visual timeline accordingly for these two films and the two tie-in comics, Godzilla Fight or Flight and Godzilla Kong the Hunted. This massive updated PNG is now available to download for our Patreon members, as well as all of our timeline notes from the GxK novelization and more. Before we discuss what the Godzilla Kong novelization hints at for the future and what the film's ending excludes from the overall story, please let me know how I'm doing by clicking that like button and subscribing to the channel. We cover timelines for a bunch of different franchises, and I'm so happy to have finally opened the Monsterverse doors and gotten a massive timeline out for this franchise. Unsurprisingly, Godzilla Kong the New Empire's film version has a nice and snappy ending that leaves everything off on a high note, and the novelization does too, but there's a greater sense of threat looming on the horizon of the novel that sets the book apart from the film. But before we get into any of that, let's explain what happens to all the human characters. The film shows Bernie, Eileen, and Trapper all having a congratulatory hug, but this is actually more of a goodbye hug in the book. Trapper is going back to the surface, and there's some hints at a future rekindled romance between him and Eileen. Eileen and Gia decide it's best to stay with the Iwi for a while longer, and when Trapper asks if Bernie's ready to go back to the surface, he decides he's not yet ready to leave. In fact, throughout the book, he has a change of heart when it comes to divulging all the information he's learned about the Iwi, their pyramids, how they're controlled by a lake of mercury, and the Hollow Earth in general. This trepidation comes from Trapper's comments about what would likely happen to the Iwi people of Hollow Earth if Bernie started posting his documentary for the world to see. And I think that's a really interesting angle, because what the book highlights again and again through the conversations of the Monarch team on the surface is the restless nature of the world's leaders. Throughout the story, both Eileen Andrews and Director Hampton are in regular communication with senators and other governmental officials who are tired of relying on Monarch to get them through these disasters. Director Hampton believes that Shimo's appearance in Rio is enough of a threat to finally push politicians and special interests to try and take over Hollow Earth. I expect to see the threat of Hollow Earth colonization become a central plot point in the near future. What do you think? If you enjoyed this video, you will definitely enjoy my massive Monsterverse Timeline video even more. Go over there, watch that video, and be sure to comment continuity on that video to be entered into our giveaway. In continuity, compete in the ultimate test of fictional timeline knowledge. Which occurred first? Did the Jurassic World theme park open after Skynet originally became self-aware? Was Hogwarts School founded before Godzilla awoke in the depths of the ocean? Does James Kirk become captain of the Enterprise before Master Chief destroys Halo? Try to put events from across fandoms in chronological order in this unique game that presents a wide variety of your favorite stories in a fresh light, whether they're several millennia ago or billions of years in our future. Thanks guys, please be sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this. Long live the timeline.